What happens when one of the world's most beloved singers sits down for what should be a friendly chat and instead finds herself under attack? You won't believe what unfolds when Celine Dion faces off against Joy Behar in the most explosive confrontation The View has ever witnessed. This isn't just another celebrity interview gone wrong. This is a complete meltdown that left producers scrambling and audiences stunned. Before we get into this incredible story, make sure you hit that subscribe button and drop a comment below, because you're not going to believe what unfolds. Last night's episode of The View started like any other, with the iconic Canadian songstress Celine Dion walking onto the set to thunderous applause. The audience was clearly thrilled to see the legendary performer, and even the co-hosts seemed genuinely excited for what promised to be an uplifting conversation about her music, her recent health struggles, and her triumphant return to the spotlight. But what no one expected was how quickly the atmosphere would shift from celebratory to absolutely toxic. The trouble began brewing almost immediately when Joy Behar, known for her sharp tongue and controversial takes, decided to veer the conversation in a direction that caught everyone off guard. Instead of focusing on Celine's incredible career or her brave battle with stiff person syndrome, Joy launched into what can only be described as an ambush. "Celine, I have to ask," Joy began with that familiar smirk that regular viewers know means trouble is coming. "Don't you think it's a bit dramatic? All this talk about your health condition? I mean, you've been performing for decades. Isn't this just another way to stay relevant?" The studio fell silent. You could practically hear a pin drop as Celine's expression shifted from warm and welcoming to something much more guarded. The other co-hosts exchanged uncomfortable glances, clearly sensing that Joy had just crossed a line that shouldn't have been crossed. Celine, maintaining her composure with the grace that has defined her career, responded carefully. "Joy, I think you might not understand the severity of what I've been dealing with. Stiff person syndrome is a very real neurological condition that has completely changed my life. It's not something I would ever use for publicity." But Joy wasn't backing down. In fact, she seemed to double down on her attack. "Oh, come on, Celine. We've all seen celebrities milk health scares for sympathy. Remember when you were supposedly too grief-stricken to perform after Renee died, but then suddenly you're back on stage when the money runs out?" The tension in the room became palpable. Celine's jaw tightened visibly, and her hands, which had been resting calmly in her lap, now gripped the arms of her chair. The audience began to murmur uncomfortably, sensing that something was going very wrong. "Excuse me?" Celine's voice remained controlled, but there was steel beneath the surface now. "My husband's death was the most devastating experience of my life. And my current health condition is not a publicity stunt. I find it incredibly hurtful that you would suggest otherwise." Joy, seemingly oblivious to the growing hostility in the room, pressed on with her aggressive line of questioning. "Look, I'm just saying what everyone's thinking. You disappear for a while, claim you're too sick to perform, and then miraculously you're ready for interviews and appearances again. It's a pattern, isn't it?" What happened next stunned everyone in the studio. Celine Dion, known throughout her career for her professionalism and diplomacy, finally reached her breaking point. "How dare you?" she said, her voice rising for the first time. "How dare you sit there and trivialize my pain, my illness, and the memory of my husband? You have no idea what I've been through. None whatsoever." The other co-host tried to intervene, with Whoopi Goldberg attempting to steer the conversation back to safer territory, but Joy wasn't finished. In what can only be described as a moment of complete tone deafness, she continued her assault. "I'm just asking the tough questions that need to be asked," Joy shot back. "That's what we do here. We don't just throw softball questions at celebrities so they can promote whatever they're selling." Celine stood up abruptly, her chair scraping against the floor with a sound that seemed to echo through the stunned silence. "I am not selling anything, Joy. I came here to share my story, to help other people who might be struggling with similar health issues, and to connect with fans who have supported me through the darkest period of my life." Her voice was trembling now, not with weakness but with barely contained fury. "But instead, I'm being attacked by someone who clearly has no empathy, no understanding, and no business discussing topics she knows nothing about." Joy, perhaps finally realizing she had gone too far, attempted to backtrack. "Look, Celine, I didn't mean to—" "No," Celine cut her off sharply. You meant exactly what you said. You sat there and accused me of faking my grief over my husband's death. You suggested I'm lying about a debilitating neurological condition that has turned my world upside down. You did mean it, and that says everything about who you are as a person. The camera captured every moment of this explosive exchange, and viewers at home were witnessing something unprecedented. This wasn't just a disagreement or a heated debate. This was a complete breakdown of professional courtesy and human decency. Joy, clearly flustered and perhaps beginning to understand the gravity of what she had unleashed, tried one more time to salvage the situation. I think you're overreacting here, Celine. This is just how we do things on The View. We ask hard questions. That was the final straw. Celine Dion, her eyes blazing with a combination of hurt and righteous anger, delivered what will surely go down as one of the most memorable moments in daytime television history. Hard questions? She repeated, her voice dripping with disdain. Hard questions would be asking about my music, my recovery process, or how I'm helping raise awareness about rare diseases. What you did was cruel, unprofessional, and frankly disgusting. She began removing her microphone with shaking hands, her movements sharp and decisive. I have spent my entire career treating people with respect and dignity, even when I disagreed with them. But I will not sit here and allow you to disrespect my late husband's memory or mock my medical condition for your entertainment. The audience sat in stunned silence as Celine continued her devastating takedown. You should be ashamed of yourself, Joy. And this show should be ashamed for allowing this kind of behavior to continue. Joy made one last desperate attempt to regain control. Celine, please, let's just take a breath and... Don't, Celine said firmly, holding up her hand. Just don't. I came here in good faith, and you ambushed me with cruelty disguised as journalism. I'm done. And with that, Celine Dion gathered her belongings and walked off the set, leaving behind a panel of co-hosts struggling to process what had just happened, and an audience that had witnessed something they would never forget. The sound of her heels clicking against the studio floor seemed to punctuate the end of what was supposed to be a friendly interview, but instead became a masterclass in how not to treat a grieving woman who has shown incredible courage in the face of devastating personal and health challenges. The remaining co-hosts sat in uncomfortable silence as producers scrambled behind the scenes, trying to figure out how to salvage the rest of the show after their biggest guest had just walked out in the middle of what can only be described as a complete disaster.